Now, Randy, since you brought Bitcoin up, that
Good.
gives me the perfect segue to this chart. So I did a post this week on X about the idea are big companies taking too much risk?
Yeah.
And I'm talking about sort of business risk in terms of balance sheet versus income statement. So balance sheet is the assets that you own, and income statement reflects the revenue and the profits that you generate from the business.
Right.
Right. And so you could actually have a business with a ton of assets and very little income. And so the value of the business would be derived by its balance sheet value.
Uh-huh.
Most businesses aren't like that. Most businesses are fairly balance sheet light and generate a lot of income. And so their value is based on the profits that they're generating and the growth of those profits.
Right.
So case in point here, let's look at, we'll skip over Berkshire Hathaway. Let's look at Alphabet.
Mm-hmm.
Its market cap is 2.89 trillion,
Mm-hmm.
and they have 95 billion in cash and short-term investments.
Right.
So that 95 billion represents about 3.3% of the company's market value.
Right.
Right. And so you can say, well, the rest of this company's valuation is driven not by its cash on its balance sheet, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the income and the profit that the company generates and the expectation of the growth in that profit.
Right.
And Alphabet's position is very similar to that of Microsoft and Amazon. 2.5% for Microsoft,
Mm-hmm.
3.8% for Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
TSMC, with 90 billion in cash and short-term investments, has about 8.5%.
Wow.
So it's actually kind of a standout amongst large cap companies.
Right.
And then Nvidia, at 57 billion, is only 1.3% of its market cap. Apple 1.6, Meta 2.5, Tesla 3.3.
Hmm.
Now Tesla is different than these other companies because Tesla's not buying back stock.
Right.
Whereas many of these other large cap tech companies are aggressively buying back stock. Nvidia is doing that. Apple's done that over the years, Microsoft, et cetera. So Tesla is still using its cash for funding its operations and its business growth, but they're not yet returning capital to shareholders.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'm not too worried about this. Tesla over time will start accumulating a ton of cash, and the question remains what they should do with it.
Right.
Oracle now at almost a trillion, $11 billion, 1.2%, and then Broadcom, 0.6%.
Wow.
So the two standouts on this list, the first one is Berkshire Hathaway
Mm-hmm.
with 344 billion in cash and short-term investments. Now, part of this makes sense because Berkshire Hathaway is kind of the insurance company to insurance companies.
Right.
They need a huge reserve in case there's some catastrophe somewhere in the world.
Right.
They need ready access capital. This also does not include the value of equity investments that they've made in the likes of Coca-Cola and Apple and other companies.
Right.
Okay. But their cash reserve is about a third of the company's value.
Right.
So this gives them a really nice, solid underpinning as far as their stock price goes.
Mm-hmm.
Right. The other big standout here is Strategy. It's a company with just slightly under 100 billion in market value, but they've got 73 billion essentially in Bitcoin.
Right.
So 75% of the value of the company is the value of the assets on their books.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I call this cash reserve. In this case, it's a Bitcoin reserve.
Right.
But they couldn't turn that into US dollars overnight. That would probably depress the Bitcoin price pretty quickly. But still, it's a pretty significant reserve.
Yes.
So the question I'm asking here is, and I'll show it graphically, what might be a better strategy as we head into a world that's about to be disrupted in so many ways? Now, the good thing for most of these companies on this list is that they're the ones doing the disruption.
Right.
Right. Really, all of them are involved in the disruption one way or another. And so the fact that they've only got, low single-digit % of their value in cash maybe isn't so terrible. If you were a company on the receiving end of disruption, this might be a massive risk.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay. But I'm still suggesting that even in that scenario, look at what happened to Intel, for example. Now they've asked, or they've gotten, investment from the U.S. government.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What happens if all those years ago that they didn't return dividends or, make stock buybacks? Would they have needed to do that?
Right.
So I'm just suggesting that companies may find themselves in a kind of a sticky situation as we go through this AI disruption. And maybe even some of these companies ultimately will struggle too. We'll have to see. And then here's just a visual of who has the most cash reserve. Berkshire Hathaway head and shoulders above everybody else. There's a reason that Goldman Sachs went to them in a time of crisis to borrow some money.
Right.
And Warren Buffett extracted a pound of flesh to give Goldman $5 billion.
Yes.
Yeah, I think some people at Goldman are missing a few of their limbs because of the pound of flesh that Warren asked for. Anyway, I thought that was interesting, and then.